Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Naja, and my channel is named On This Side with Naja because I am navigating this side of life, middle-aged woman in my early 50s, just trying to get through everything that life is throwing at me at one time. There's no niche over here, just life, and that's all that's going on. So thank you so much for joining me. But I want to talk about today is my caregiving journey. I am an only child of a 78-year-old mother who has dementia. We first discovered it, I would say 2018. That's when I first started taking notice of it. Probably maybe even earlier. Now that the information that I have about it and the signs that I started noticing, but my cousin brought it to my attention because lightning struck twice in my family. My mother's brother's wife ended up being diagnosed with dementia like December 2018. And so my mother and I had gone to visit my cousin and her daughter one weekend for Mother's Day. And we were at a restaurant, and my mother had to use the bathroom. And so I had pointed out to her, the sign, like, Mom, the bathrooms are like, in the back of the restaurant. You just follow the sign to go around. And so as I noticed her starting to walk, to the bathroom, she just kind of like stopped. And so I had told my cousin's young daughter to go and help escort my mom, onto the bathroom. And so during that time, my cousin was like, Naj, I got something to tell you. And I'm like, what's that? She was like, my mom was diagnosed with dementia, and I believe auntie, my mom has it too. And I was like, what? It's like, wow. She said, yeah, I think that's what's going on. I said, okay. So then that's when I started to pay attention. She, but prior to that, I started noticing her having issues before then too. So one, it being she would get so flustered trying to just pay her bills, or like, misplacing mail. Like she would have filled out a check, put it in an envelope, and was getting ready to go and drive it over to the post office to put it in, their mailbox. And within a split second, she would lose it, couldn't find it anymore. Or, my uncle had called me one time and said that she had come over to visit with him, and she had left a little later, once it started to get dark. So she had asked him to trail her to get home, back to her house. And so she, that their homes aren't even 2 minutes apart from each other. And she was trying to drive home and started, like, she passed her street and started backing up on the road, you know, to um to turn down the road. I mean, she's just doing just some wild things, that was not in her character. Like, my mother was like, I call her the road warrior. Like, she'll get on the highway at 5:10 p.m. at night and drive like a Dickens to wherever. But this particular time, she just didn't know, she got kind of turned around or whatever. So he noticed that. And then, like I said, I started noticing other things, like her not handling like her health appointments and things, like, in the right way. And so it was just like a number of things that I started to notice. But the major thing was like personality changes. Um, she had come to visit me, and I was going to take her to, usually every September for her birthday, I would take her to on a birthday trip. And this particular year was when, I think it's like a year after the African American Museum in DC had been built. So I was taking her there for her 70th birthday trip. And so the whole, week we lit up, everything was fine. I had taken her some shopping to get her a few little things. And that particular night before we were getting ready to leave, she was trying to wash out like this new wig she had gotten, and she wanted to. The lady had given her instructions on how to clean the wig, and just use some conditioner, run some water through it, and the curls will, plump back to normal, and go on. So I had given her some conditioner. She had rinsed through it, did exactly what the woman told her to do. So I guess the curls didn't come back the way that she wanted them to. And I mean, she just went off to a point where it was almost like, she was shaking the wig in my face and saying, "You didn't do this and you didn't, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Mama, what's going on?" Like, just, and I won't say that it was totally out of character for her, because my mother could go from 0 to 100, just, but not in a way that she was this particular time, because I was just like, this is really, So, like I said, little things like that, to where her personality started to change. And then, I would ask her about it later. She wouldn't have no thoughts about it at all. Like, she wouldn't even remember, what happened. So, from there, the next major thing that happened, she was, again, it was another year, that she was staying with me. This is 2019, September. And I had taken her and my goddaughter to this like botanical garden. It was a really, really, really hot day. Um, and I was like, "Mom, you need to make sure you eat something before we leave, because you need to, it's hot outside. It'll be a little while before we get a chance to get some more food. So, make sure you eat and, all that before we go." So I hadn't, like, really paid attention. And we were just trying to get ready to get out for the day, excuse me. And we had left out and got there to the place or whatever. So we were sitting down watching this like chocolate making demonstration or whatever. And all of a sudden she got overheated and she passed out. And so that was like the most scariest, you know, day in my life. So, long story short, she ended up being okay. Thank God. We went to the emergency room. She got checked out. Everything was fine. So from then on, I said, "You know what? You just need to stay here with me. Just stay here with me. And, I want to see if I can, you know, get to the bottom of what's going on." So sure enough, took her to my primary physician, and he gave her what's called a MOCA exam in the office. So it's like a series of different little like multiple choice, or like, draw a clock, or, different little things like that, like a little written test exam, in office. And so she couldn't even get through, one or two of those questions without not knowing, how to answer them, like just cognitive. And so he sent her for an MRI. Sure enough, she had a lot of white matter on her brain. Um, she's basically had, like, up to that point, like several mini strokes. And so um, what her disease is called, of dementia, is called small vessel ischemic or ischemic, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, disease of the brain, where you're, over time, due to like high blood pressure, or uncontrolled blood pressure, your blood vessels narrow as you age, and especially particularly the ones that go up to your brain. So it starts to cut off those parts to where your cognitive thinking and mobile and all that, those things become affected because of the blood vessels narrowing, as you get older. And so that's what, her dementia is, more of a vascular dementia. So um, it's been a journey. We are now on year 6 of my caregiving journey, and I am exhausted. She's been living with me this whole time. I'm still, a working adult who's had some, layoffs in between, and just trying to juggle and keep all these balls and stuff going, just to, kind of take care of us and be in a safe environment, safe and stable for her. But now I'm at the point where I need some additional resources and help. I really hadn't been able to go on vacation or take any time off, just for me, for my sanity, because my family lives in a couple of another state, like some states over in the Midwest. Um, her sister, she has a sister, but she's sickly herself. And then my uncle, the one I was talking about, my brother, his wife was diagnosed with dementia. She ultimately succumbed to dementia a couple of years ago, and so he was taking care of her full time. And then, my other family, they're working, have young children who are in school, things of that nature. So I don't have anyone. So, and I live in a different state, so it's hard for anybody to kind of take off and come and do or whatever. I do have a couple of relatives in the city, but of course everybody has their own thing going on. And what I found too, people will say, "Oh, I'll be there to help you and support you." No, they won't. Like, I really realized that I am really on my own in this thing. And that's tough. That's a tough position to be in because, particularly, like I said, I'm still working, still trying to find my way in the world, still trying to chase after, I don't say chase, but just still trying to pursue things of my own, like my dreams and just trying to work, and then particularly, especially if you aren't working in a field that you care for or like, and you really need to try to make some moves, but you can't because everything is based on the care for your parent. And I just kind of want to talk about the grieving of it all. I'm grieving my life as it was before. I'm grieving the loss of my parent. My mother was a very spunky woman, very studious. She loved studying things and reading, and she was an ordained minister, so she was starting to get into doing her preaching and things like that, going to different places and preaching. And she was an avid reader and just a lover of knowledge. And to see that person to now this person who's becoming more frail and saying wild things, out of her mouth, something that she would normally say, like her personality changes and, things like that. It's just, grieving who she once was. And it's such a hard road, and it's such a vicious disease. It just really takes over you. And the reason I was even thinking about this, I have been wanting to do a video for a long time, but what really sparked it today was I saw um, a video clipping or just the interview with Emma Willis, Bruce Willis's wife. That they're dealing with that, his type of dementia, with him. And, and she talked a lot about how the caregivers just, you got to think about them too. A lot of the people always want to say this or that about caregivers, but, we're in the trenches with them along with this disease, right? And there was one thing in particular she said that really, really scared me. She said that his neurologist had stated that the caregivers, there was a high percentage that end up ultimately dying before the actual person, the loved one with the illness, because of all of the stress and strain and everything that's put on them. And that scared me because I don't sleep at all. I mean, I'm like, I'm 51 years old. I'm going through menopause, on top of just stress, and then, just work and just trying to um, keep all of these balls juggling in the air, and hoping nothing cracks, and drops out of my hand. And that's just a tough position to be in. I am now trying to think about, not trying, but I am thinking about and working on some changes for us. I really think it's time for her to go into a facility because I am just completely worn down. Like, I am literally so tired. But at the same time, it's like I don't want to put her anywhere. I don't want to do that because that's my mom. I don't want anyone to mistreat her. I want her to have the best care that she can possibly have at this time, and she needs more support that I can't give her. The type of work that I do, I'm like basically locked into my desk all day, and sometimes there's some days I'm so focused in on my work that an hour go by and I need to check on her. Now, I do, I have cameras and things like that, and she's not that far away from me in my home, but she needs more support. She needs more attention. She needs more like care than I can give her now that I'm seeing, and I don't want to withhold that from her. But here's the other thing: trying to find somewhere for her to get care, particularly like a memory care facility. Oh my God, the prices are astronomical. I had another friend who I had reached out to, and I asked him. He was in the same predicament with his mother, and she died earlier this year. And I asked him, well, a facility that she was in, how much was it? He said $9,000 a month. I was like, are you kidding me? He said it depends on where they are in the disease progression on how much you will be charged. And I'm like, say what now? $9,000 a month? Only in America. Only in America that you will have to be charged that much for a loved one's care. Now, I understand people need to get paid. I get that. You know, Nurses and CNAs and all, everyone who's in the healthcare, a lot of times their work goes, thankless. You know what I'm saying? And I get it, I understand, but my goodness, $9,000. So, and making changes with legislation and, Medicare and things like that, Medicaid. So I don't know what's going to happen. And I believe that Emma spoke about that too. I read another article with her, and she was saying that because some changes are getting ready to be made with Medicaid, she wants to start possibly going to DC and, you know, start lobbying for these things for caregivers because we do need more support and resources in that area. So, like I said, I'm on that journey. It is really difficult. Um, you know, I'm just trying to get through each day, but it's been a profound change, in my life, and it's really been just eye opening. Just learning about these things that you know it's a day by day thing. So anyway, thank you for listening. I appreciate you watching today, and I will see you in my next one. And let me know if any of you are going through the same things. I am based in Georgia, so if you know of any resources, anyone that I could talk to maybe give me some other things to think about, I would love to hear that. And yeah, I'll see you next time.